Sarah screamed as another wave of unbearable pain washed over her. The labor had been going on for hours, each contraction more intense than the last. But finally, after what felt like an eternity, she heard the most beautiful sound in the world, her baby's first cry. The agony instantly transformed into overwhelming joy as she held her newborn son for the first time. A few weeks later, Sarah and her husband Michael found themselves in an upscale furniture store in downtown Chicago. The baby slept peacefully in his carrier as a well-dressed salesperson led them toward an elaborate coffee table. The piece was striking, a thick glass top supported by two ornate golden figures of women, their arms raised as if dancing. "This is our premium Swedish model," the salesperson explained with obvious pride. "Absolutely unbreakable glass. And the craftsmanship is exceptional. It's the finest piece we have in the store." Michael's eyes lit up with interest. He walked around the table, examining it from every angle. "What do you think, Sarah? It would look perfect in our living room." Sarah frowned, bouncing little Thomas gently in her arms. "Michael, it's beautiful, but look at the price tag. We just had a baby. We need to be practical about our spending." "But honey, this is an investment piece. Look at the quality," Michael insisted, running his hand along the smooth glass surface. "An investment in what? Showing off to our neighbors?" Sarah's voice rose slightly, causing Thomas to stir. "We have a baby to think about now. We need to save money for his future, not waste it on expensive furniture." Michael's jaw tightened. "You always do this, Sarah. You have to control every decision we make. The house, the decorations, even having Thomas. You just decided we were ready for a baby without really discussing it with me, and then you named him Thomas without even asking what I thought." The salesperson's face brightened suddenly. "Thomas? That's my name too. What a wonderful coincidence." Sarah glared at him. "Great, another pushy salesman trying to make a connection." Undeterred, Thomas the salesperson launched back into his pitch. "Listen, this table isn't just furniture. It's a symbol of stability and beauty. It can bring unimaginable happiness to your home. You know, vases break, furniture gets damaged, even marriages can fall apart, but this glass will never break." Thomas began to cry, his wails echoing through the showroom. Sarah bounced him more vigorously, her patience wearing thin. "That's it. I'm done with this nonsense," she snapped at the salesperson before turning to Michael. "We're leaving." She stormed out of the store, leaving Michael standing alone with the salesperson. In a moment of spite and frustration, Michael turned back to the man. "I'll take it." The salesperson looked surprised. "You really want it? To be honest with you, I don't even like it that much myself." Michael's jaw was set with determination. "I don't care. I'm buying it." Later that afternoon, Michael struggled up the narrow staircase to their apartment. The heavy coffee table balanced precariously in his arms. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he navigated each step carefully. When he finally reached their floor, their upstairs neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was waiting by the elevator with her 13-year-old daughter Emma. "Oh, how wonderful to see the baby," Mrs. Patterson exclaimed, peering at Thomas in Sarah's arms. "He's absolutely precious." Emma stood silently beside her mother, her expression sullen and distant. Mrs. Patterson noticed her daughter's mood. "Emma's been a bit down lately. I think it's because of some boy at school who likes her." "He's not my boyfriend," Emma said quickly, her cheeks flushing. "He's just someone who's in love with me but won't admit it." After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Sarah headed into their apartment, and Mrs. Patterson went downstairs to check the mail. Emma lingered in the hallway, watching as Michael continued to struggle with the table. "Need help?" she asked, stepping closer. "I've got it, thanks," Michael replied, not looking up. Emma moved even closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You know I was talking about you, right? You're the one who's in love with me." Michael nearly dropped the table. "Emma, what are you talking about?" "Last week, in the elevator, I tried to kiss you, but you pulled away. And those poems you sent me for my school project, they were so romantic. I know you feel the same way about me." Michael's face went pale. "Emma, those were just poems to help with your assignment. I'm a married man with a baby. You're 13 years old. This is completely inappropriate." Emma's eyes filled with tears. But you do love me. I know you do. We could run away together. I won't tell anyone about us if you just admit how you feel." "There is no us," Michael said firmly. "I'm going inside now, and I think you should go home and forget about this conversation." He quickly unlocked his door and stepped inside, closing it firmly behind him. Emma stood in the hallway for a moment, her face a mixture of hurt and anger, before finally walking away. Inside the apartment, Michael began assembling the coffee table in the living room while Sarah fed Thomas on the couch. As he worked, he noticed there were only 4 screws in the package instead of the 5 needed to properly secure the glass top. "Damn it," he muttered, reaching for his phone. He dialed the furniture store. "Hello, this is Michael Rodriguez. I just bought the Swedish coffee table from your store, and you're missing a screw. I need that 5th screw delivered today." The salesperson's voice was apologetic. "I'm so sorry about that, Mr. Rodriguez. I'll bring it over personally this afternoon." Sarah looked up from feeding Thomas. "Let me guess. Your unbreakable table is already falling apart." "It's just a missing screw, Sarah. These things happen. These things happen when you buy overpriced furniture from pushy salespeople," Sarah shot back. "I'm going to the grocery store. Your brother David and his girlfriend are coming over later to meet Thomas, and I need to get food for dinner." She placed Thomas on the couch and gathered her purse. "Watch him while I'm gone. And before you ask, no, I'm not buying wine. If I can't drink while nursing, you don't need to drink either." As soon as Sarah left, Thomas began crying. Michael tried everything, rocking him, singing softly, even walking around the room while holding him. In desperation, he carried the baby over to the coffee table. "Look at this, buddy," he said, trying to distract Thomas. "Daddy bought this beautiful table for our home. What do you think?" Thomas continued to wail, his tiny fists waving in the air. Michael bounced him gently, taking a step back to get a better view of the table. But as he moved backward, his foot caught on the edge of the area rug. The world seemed to slow down as Michael felt himself falling. He desperately tried to protect Thomas, twisting his body as they fell toward the coffee table. The glass surface, which the salesperson had promised was unbreakable, shattered into deadly shards upon impact. When Michael opened his eyes, he was covered in blood. Thomas lay motionless in his arms, his tiny head torn open by the razor-sharp glass. The baby's eyes were closed, his little body completely still. "No, no, no," Michael whispered, his voice barely audible. "Please, no." Meanwhile, Sarah was at the grocery store, chatting with her old friend Jennifer, whom she'd run into by the produce section. "A baby. Sarah, that's wonderful news," Jennifer said, her face lighting up. "I know how long you and Michael have been trying." 2 years of treatments, Sarah replied, her voice filled with joy. "But it was all worth it. Thomas is perfect." Back at the apartment, Michael sat on the floor, staring at his son's lifeless body. His hands shook as he tried to remove pieces of glass from his palm. The phone rang, jolting him back to reality. "Hi, honey," Sarah's voice came through the speaker. "Jennifer is here, and she wants to congratulate you on the baby." Michael's throat felt like sandpaper. He couldn't form words. "Michael, are you there?" Sarah's voice sounded concerned. He hung up without speaking. A few minutes later, the phone rang again. "What kind of wine do you want me to get?" Sarah asked. Michael hung up again, his mind racing. Sarah would be home soon. What was he going to do? Moving mechanically, he changed Thomas's diaper with trembling hands, then carefully placed the baby's body in his crib, arranging him as if he were simply sleeping. He needed cleaning supplies to deal with the blood in the living room, but they were all under the kitchen sink, and he couldn't think straight. Desperate, he knocked on Mrs. Patterson's door. Emma answered, her eyes widening when she saw his blood-stained clothes. "Are you painting?" she asked, noting the red stains. "Yes," Michael lied. "I need to borrow some cleaning supplies." Emma's face brightened. "Did you tell your wife about us yet?" "I'll tell her this afternoon," Michael said, just as Mrs. Patterson appeared behind her daughter. "Of course, dear," Mrs. Patterson said kindly. "I'll get you whatever you need." Emma smiled. "I'll come by later to pick up the supplies." When Michael returned to his apartment, he found Thomas the salesperson waiting in the hallway with a small package. "Here's your missing screw," the salesperson said cheerfully. "Sorry about the mix-up. And between you and me, that table isn't actually from Sweden. It's made in China. But don't tell anyone I said that." He peered over Michael's shoulder into the apartment. "I could help you install that screw if you want. And hey, maybe afterward we could grab dinner or catch a show. I don't have many friends, you know. I really like you, Michael." Michael's patience snapped. "I don't need help. Thanks for the screw." He slammed the door in the salesperson's face. For the next hour, Michael worked frantically to clean up the blood and glass from the living room. His hands shook as he scrubbed the carpet, trying to remove every trace of the accident. At one point, he spotted something under the armchair and nearly vomited. It was Thomas's head, separated from his tiny body by the sharp glass. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Home in 30 minutes." Michael rushed to the shower, scrubbing the blood from his skin until it was raw. He bandaged his cut hand and tried to pull himself together. But when he heard Sarah's key in the lock, he panicked and briefly considered jumping from their balcony. But he couldn't do it. "Michael, why did it take you so long to answer the door?" Sarah asked as she entered with grocery bags. "Thomas was crying," Michael said, his voice hollow. "I just got him to sleep. We should be quiet so we don't wake him." Sarah noticed the broken glass swept into a corner. "What happened to your unbreakable table?" "It broke," Michael said simply. Sarah laughed. "I would have paid money to see your face when that happened." She noticed the dark stains on the carpet. "What's that?" "I cut my hand cleaning up the glass," Michael explained, holding up his bandaged palm. Sarah shook her head and went to the kitchen to start preparing dinner. As she worked, she continued to joke about the broken table, not noticing how pale and shaky her husband had become. "I'm going to check on Thomas and get the baby monitor," she said after a while. Michael's heart stopped. "No, let me do it. He's sleeping so peacefully." Sarah looked at him strangely but nodded. "Okay, but I'll need to wake him soon to feed him." Michael went to the nursery and stood over the crib, looking down at his son's still form. When he returned to the kitchen, Sarah was listening to the baby monitor. "I hear dripping," she said. "Is there a leak in his room?" "I'll check it," Michael said quickly, rushing back to the nursery. Blood was indeed dripping from the crib onto the floor below. He cleaned it up as best he could, then returned to the kitchen. As he sat down with a glass of wine, his mind played tricks on him. He could swear he heard Thomas crying through the monitor, but when he looked at Sarah, she seemed to hear nothing. The doorbell rang, and Michael's brother David arrived with his 18-year-old girlfriend, Christina. Sarah welcomed them warmly, but David immediately noticed something was wrong with his brother. "Michael, you look terrible. What happened?" "The coffee table broke and cut up his hand," Sarah explained. "He's been grumpy about it all day." Christina pointed to a spot under the armchair. "There's still blood over there." Michael quickly sat down in the armchair, positioning himself to hide what lay beneath it. "I'll clean it up later." "I want to see my nephew," David said. "He's sleeping," Michael replied quickly. "It took forever to get him down. Let's just eat." Christina pulled out a tiny outfit from her bag. "My grandmother made this for the baby. Can we put it on him? I love seeing babies in cute clothes." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Oh, that's adorable. Michael, go put this on Thomas right now." "He's sleeping," Michael said harshly. "Leave him alone." David frowned at his brother's tone. "Don't talk to your wife like that." Sarah tried to ease the tension. "Christina, let me show you the nursery." As the women headed down the hall, David confronted his brother. "What's going on with you? Is it that girl Emma again? Maybe you should report her to the police." Michael shook his head. "She's just a kid. She'll get over it." For a moment, Michael considered telling David the truth, but the words wouldn't come. At dinner, everyone chatted happily except Michael, who sat sweating and drinking wine. He kept seeing blood everywhere, kept hearing the salesperson's voice in his head talking about the unbreakable glass. When the conversation turned to the joys of parenthood, Michael felt like he might be sick. "Taking care of Thomas is my top priority now," Sarah said, her face glowing. "I love him even more than I love Michael." David suddenly stood up, grinning. "Speaking of babies, Christina and I have an announcement. We're going to have a baby too." Sarah squealed with delight. but Michael just stared at his wine glass. David's smile faded. "Michael, aren't you happy for us?" Something snapped inside Michael. "Happy? You've ruined an 18-year-old girl's life? And you want me to be happy? And buying that damn coffee table this morning was the worst mistake of my life." He stormed off to the bathroom, leaving everyone stunned. David followed him, concerned about his brother's breakdown. In the bathroom, Michael was recording a video on his phone, tears streaming down his face. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I killed our baby. It was an accident, but he's dead because of me. I can't live with what I've done. Please forgive me." David burst in just as Michael finished recording. "Who are you talking to?" Within minutes, David was standing in the nursery, staring in horror at Thomas's lifeless body. "Oh my God, Michael. Where's his head?" "Under the armchair," Michael whispered. I couldn't pick it up." "We have to tell Sarah," David said, his voice shaking. "I'm going to jump off the balcony," Michael said flatly. "No, you're not. Let me think. We need to tell her carefully, so she doesn't see him like this." Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Is everything okay? I need to feed Thomas soon." "Give us a few more minutes," David said. "He's still sleeping." After Sarah left, David tried to calm his brother. "Accidents happen, Michael. We'll figure this out together." But their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Emma had returned for the cleaning supplies, and she was insisting on seeing Michael. "He's busy," Sarah told her. "It's important," Emma said. Then, without warning, she blurted out, "Michael kissed me in the elevator." Sarah's face went white. She marched into the living room with Emma just as Michael and David emerged from the nursery. "Is this true?" Sarah demanded. Before Michael could answer, Emma's dog, who had come with her, began barking frantically at the armchair. The animal pawed at the floor, trying to get underneath the furniture. Emma looked down and saw something that made her scream. David rushed to block her view, but it was too late. The dog had blood on its snout, and Emma had seen Thomas's severed head. Christina caught a glimpse of what David was trying to hide and immediately began vomiting. Sarah pushed past everyone, demanding to know what was happening. "Please, Sarah," David begged. "Just leave with Christina, don't look." But Sarah wouldn't listen. She kept pushing until David finally, reluctantly, placed Thomas's head in her hands. The scream that came from Sarah's throat was unlike anything human. It was the sound of a mother's world ending, of love turning to horror in an instant. She staggered toward the balcony, clutching her baby's head to her chest, and before anyone could stop her, she jumped. The police arrived to find both Sarah and Michael dead on the pavement below. Emma was in the hospital, suffering from severe shock. Christina was sedated and under medical supervision. David sat in the apartment, staring at nothing, only able to repeat two words over and over: the coffee table. In the end, the table that was supposed to be unbreakable had broken everything that mattered. A family destroyed by a single moment of tragedy, a chain of events that began with a simple furniture purchase and ended with 3 lives lost. The coffee table sat in the empty apartment, its glass surface reflecting nothing but emptiness, a monument to how quickly happiness can turn to nightmare.